Graft podcast.
To what do I owe the extreme pleasure of this surprise visit?
Episode number 3. Another mention for the Lockdown Challenge Facebook group, raising awareness to men's mental health and raising money for the NHS in the process. So if you haven't already, then get involved. Today we're going to be talking to Suddi Raval, founding member of the band Together and Acid House legend. So let's get this podcast going. Suddi.
Hello.
Hello mate, how are you doing?
I'm very good, how are you?
Yeah, not too bad. Most people I've had on have kind of asked, what they're doing, why all this craziness is going on. I know that you're working still.
Yeah. Got a day off today.
Yeah.
Part of the Easter, do you know what I mean? So a bit of time off.
So what is it that you're doing? I know that you've got for yourself. It's probably the best job in the world from what I've spoken to you about before.
Yeah, it's a good laugh. Working at the Brit School, teaching music technology. So subjects I teach are like history of dance music, DJing, remixing, kind of like making a tune, and it's kind of music production. So it's really cool. Yeah, you're kind of like doing it to a lot of people really into it.
Yeah. I saw before. I didn't even realise this, that you used to make music for computer games. Yeah. I didn't know that, to be honest with you. I'll be honest with you.
Yeah, no, to be honest, it's probably what I've done most of my life. It was, I don't know if you know, I had an album out called Ultimate Escape Project recently.
Yeah.
When I did that, there was a guy called Steve Pickford who was quite into all the stuff I was doing. And this is like back in the day. Kind of put two kind of like EPs out, sort of like little albums, 93 and 94. And this guy in the games industry liked what I was doing. He had me records and he wanted me to do a soundtrack for one of his games. I remember it being called Venom Spirit. And I didn't end up doing it, but I did a Spider-Man game, Separation Anxiety, it was called, and I really enjoyed it. And it was all like house tunes, just put like proper like break beats in and kind of like loads of kind of like techno and stuff, like kind of like ravey vocals, and they loved it. They were like, right, do you want a full-time job? And at the time, I don't know, but I was just sort of like gigging and getting selling vinyl and stuff like that, and I thought, actually, this is all right. I don't have to worry about, because I still was doing the music, but I was like, I don't have to worry about how I'm going to pay my rent next month. Obviously, you know what I mean? I wasn't getting complacent, but I quite like the idea of that, getting a steady job, and did it for 23 years.
Right. Did you do something with it? Was it the Lego trilogy as well? Was it?
Yeah. For 10 years. Only last year I left Warner Brothers to do all the Lego games. I started pretty much just after they did the first Star Wars game, and. Yeah, the mad thing was, at that time, I just started teaching, and I hated it. It just didn't, click with it at all at the time. I was in Ellesmere Port, and I kind of headhunted. They kind of sent me a message and said, do you fancy working for Warner Brothers, being audio manager in Wilmslow? And it was like, Ellesmere Port was taking me a couple of hours to get in, at least an hour and a half, and then that was like 10 minutes drive from my house, Wilmslow, and it was working on Star Wars, Indiana Jones, like Batman, just loads of brilliant things which I was really into. And I was like, this is pretty, I don't really have to think about this one too much. And yeah, I was in it for 10 years doing that same job, doing all the Lego games. It was brilliant, yeah.
I bet you were right in your element with that, because I think you're a Star Wars fan as well, aren't you? So
Yeah, big time. And it was mad because I'd never thought I'd work on Star Wars stuff. And like when Force Awakens came out about, a few years ago, the first of the new trilogy, we had the script and everything. We had loads of clips on it and everything. Had the film. And, I didn't like it because I didn't want to know what was going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I even said to my boss, what do we do about the spoilers? And he was like, you'd have to leave if you don't want any spoilers. Like, all right, okay, that's a bit childish of me leaving my job because I don't want to know what happened. It bothered me, but the mad thing was, you've seen it, haven't you? Have you seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So just in case anyone listens to this and they're like, I haven't seen it, a little spoiler, they give us the whole film, and they didn't tell us about Han Solo dying. So when they kept that was a total secret, kept it from everyone. So when I was in the pictures, thinking I'd see it, I knew the whole story inside out. because on the Lego games, it used the actual dialogue from the movie, and watching it, I was like, oh my God, I was devastated. I think everyone was gutted, you know what I mean? Han Solo was dead. But I swear to God, I was like, in bits, roughly.
So obviously, most people, or some people might not do, but a lot of people listening are going to obviously know you from the rave scene. I just wondered, how did you get into that? I know it's kind of one of those questions you've probably been asked a lot on interviews and things like that. But
yeah, no, to be honest, I don't mind talking about it. You know what I mean? Because it's such a fun time of my life.
Yeah.
Obviously, I could say it in detail, but I'll cut it short.
Yeah.
But basically, I was into house music. I was into I don't know if you were into electro before house, or the kind of like electro series. So I was kind of like into that as a kid. And house came along, and all the kids at my school were really got into house music, and really into that. There was Stu Allen who was playing it on the radio, and it was brilliant stuff. And like just for ages, I was just into it in my bedroom, just listening to stuff. So I was like 15, 16 years old, too young to go to a club. And when I was 16, like a lot of people, I suppose, started going pubs and clubs. I looked about 12, you know what I mean? No one was going to let me into a club. And so I was just like really into it. And as I got older, like when I was about 17, something like that, I bumped into a guy in the street who just recognised from my clothes that I was into house music, and just started talking to me and asking me what clubs I go. I was like, I don't go to clubs. I went to Butterflies in Oldham and Shades in Staley Bridge, and he was like going, you need to go to the Hacienda, you need to go to Blackburn Raves, and you need to go to Park Hall in Charlie. I was like, I've heard of these things. I'd never heard of Park Hall actually at the time, and he goes, come down with me. Here's my number. So like literally a random guy in the street gave me his number, and met him at the weekend. Took us up there, and just couldn't believe that. You know what I mean? There was just thousands and thousands of people all into it. As much as I was like thinking, you know what I mean? Because I was at college at the time thinking I was a bit of a kind of like the outcast in just sort of being obsessed with this music, and everyone knew I was really kind of like obsessed with it. And finding that there was just millions of like-minded people all loving it, you know what I mean? It was just mental for me, that, yeah. So that's kind of kicked off the whole clubbing part of it.
I suppose that's the power of the acid house movement. It's very inclusive, whereas some other subcultures, it's like you might not get, people don't necessarily get invited in, if you know what I mean. People have got to try to work their way in, whereas the acid house was very, wasn't like that, if you know what I mean. It's for anybody.
Yeah, no, completely. Yeah, I mean, that's the great thing. I mean, in the same way as this guy, it was Carl Kelvin, did that with me. Anyone who went, you immediately just had the kind of, you just felt like, I've got to tell everyone about this. It's so good.
Yeah.
I've got to get everyone to go. When I first started going to the Blackburn Raves, there were probably like, a couple of thousand people. And by the end, ended up like 10,000 people. And it's just because you just had to tell everyone. I mean, it's already, most of us haven't changed. We're still banging on about acid house and how good it was. And, it's because it was genuinely like good, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And, the bigger it is, the more your mates are there, the better it is, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you just sort of want to get everyone down there, you know what I mean? So it just grew, you're right, yeah, it's dead inclusive, and it's just such a lovely kind of atmosphere, yeah.
Obviously, a lot of people are going to know you for the half of the band that you're in together. I just wondered how did that form, and what was the story behind that with you?
Yeah, no, funny thing was, that was in Blackburn. I was at the raves, and Jonathan, who I formed the band with, they come up to me, and I used to do kind of mad noises with my voice, what ended up in Hardcore Uproar.
Yeah.
And I just did it to him, and it kind of blew his mind, and he kind of literally just took me around to different people in the queue at the raves, and he was going, check this out, do it to him. And I was loving it, mate. I was a little kid, you know what I mean? It's like, 17, I think I was, and then just loving the attention. I didn't mind. I saw all these load of people crowding around me, kind of giving me loads of paying attention, and he was just loving it. And it was just really weird how the first night I met him, I'd always had I'd kind of like had ideas for tunes, and we're always putting tunes together and bass lines and riffs and stuff like that. And I was supposed to be going in the studio with a mate called Wayne, Wayne Lawson, who's called my school friend, and he went to sort of a sound engineering course. And we were sort of going to do that, but it was too expensive. I couldn't afford it. And yeah, Jonathan, for some reason, kind of like, without knowing that I was, bubbling with ideas all the time, he just sort of twigged that he wanted to do music with me because he was already involved in making music. And first thing was he has to manage me because it was really, I didn't get it. I was thinking, I don't fully know what that means, and I don't know, what I mean, what you're going to manage. And we just sort of like started exchanging ideas, and Hardcore Uproar formed out of it. We did a lot of tunes, so yeah, that's how it came about. Yeah.
I was just going to say, Hardcore Uproar, I'll say it still is a massive dance tune. I mean, how did you promote that? Was it something that kind of exploded, or did you have to put a lot of work into getting it out there?
It was mental. It was all completely like organic, if you like. It just happened on its own. It was the power of the tune. We recorded it, took it down to 808 States radio show. They had every Tuesday night, Sunset Radio, they did a show, and they interviewed us. It's on YouTube, on the clip of them interviewing us, Darren and Andy. And we literally thought of the band name in the foyer when they were like, what you here for? Because people didn't just turn up at the radio station. We were, pretty clueless, really. John knew a lot of stuff, but it was in balls of just going up to people and just making stuff happen. And he was just like, well, let's go down way and play this tune to him. Because John De Silva had already heard it, and he said, you sat on a big tune here. Yeah. And we were like, for him to say it, we were like thinking, bloody hell, it was exciting. We were going to press, so we started pressing some records up, but it took a while for them to come through. So we went to 808 State just with the tape. It's just been days before we'd recorded it, and they were like, going, right, we'll see, we'll have a listen to it. We'll see in a few minutes' time if we like it. We'll interview him. Well, no, they didn't even say interview. They just said, we'll play the tune. So we thought they were just going to play the tune. And I remember me and John were like, right, we're going to have to think of a band name now because we've not got a band name. And he sent the tune off to Manchester Evening News as a demo. And he put the band name as The Jam Factory. And thinking about it now, that sounds dead, sort of 80s almost. Sounds like it would have worked at the time. And the reason why I hated it, I went mental at the time. I remember, we didn't fall out, but I remember just kicking off going, no way we're using it, because I don't want anyone to know what it meant. And it was because at night I worked in Robertson's Jam Factory, and John found that really funny. He found it was really cute. He was like, that's brilliant. Because I was working at night so that I could pay for going to the raves and going to Blackburn. You know what I mean? It cost a little bit of money, do you know what I mean, to get up there. And he sent the tape off to Evening News as the Jam Factory. And when we're in 808's foyer, because we've got to come up with a new band name now, and decided on Together. So it was a mad one. Yeah. So, but it's all I was going to say was to promote it. So that was the beginning, and there was a little bit of a buzz building about it. Yeah. And when we got the first 25 test pressings of the 1,000 white label records that were coming, they made a list of literally the best 25 DJs in the country. We were just like a wish list. So there was like Paul Oakenfold, Mike Pickering, Sasha, Graham Park, Andy Weatherall. You know what I mean? Just like, who are our best favourite DJs in the world? You know what I mean? They're all like British, you know what I mean? Top British dance club DJs. We just made a list and went to each of the clubs and just went, excuse me, sir, would you please consider playing this? And just our politeness, and just like, everyone sort of went, we'll give it a listen. And pretty much everywhere I went, they played it. Yeah. And within the space of like a few days, remember the weekend that we give it to Sasha? He said he played it at Leeds, and he goes, the place went mental. And Mike Pickering and Graham Park, John De Silva, all the big DJs got it. And everybody hammered it. So over the space of a few days' time, everyone knew it, especially because the intro had that Now Was distinctive intro. Yeah. And next thing you know, the phone was going off, and like major record companies were like making us offers. It was just like, wow, this is unexpected and happened really fast. Yeah.
What happened with the Was there some kind of recording you did there to promote it? And there was a kind of it was one of the riots that made the mainstream headlines. Yeah.
Yeah, the mad thing there was, so we had the tune and planned, written and sort of recorded. We were due to go to the studio, and Jonathan said, "Let's put a crowd in it." And I was like, really into the idea because it had like a brilliant thing because we're totally making it aimed at raves and Blackburn and Hacienda, that kind of thing. And I thought that'd be great if we get that. And he goes, let's not get a football crowd. You could buy them off like sample CDs, off sound effect CDs. And he goes, other people who'd done it, clearly the crowd was something, like that, like a sound effect. And he goes, let's get a proper rave. It will be the really distinct sound. I was like, it's a great idea, but raves are new. You know what I mean? There's not going to be a sound effect CD. And he goes, yeah, we'll go to Blackburn. And we'll ask him, can we record the raves? And typical, like Jonathan having these like wild ideas and making it happen. He asked them, and they said, yeah, we're up for it, but we want you to call the tune Hardcore Uproar after the raves. Right. We're like, oh, right, okay. I didn't get what a brilliant name it was. I was like, but it's called Can You Feel the Beat? I was like, this is a much better, and so very few people know that. And I was like, that's the name of it. And, Jonathan was like, no, let's go with this name. It's a cool name and we want to, keep them sweet and, we want to get that crowd sample. And so we kind of like changed it all, to be Hardcore Uproar, and the vocals said that as well. But on the night, we recorded it. But we could never have predicted that it was going to get busted. Yeah. And so it was minutes after we'd recorded the stuff, getting the recording equipment back in the car, seeing all the riot police charging towards the outside of the warehouse while we were sort of putting the stuff in the car, and realised our mates were inside and there was like 10,000 people in there. They had, they looked pretty angry. Riot shields and batons and dogs, you know what I mean? Yeah. That was pretty crazy. So, we recorded, which ended up being the last proper kind of Blackburn rave. And, we thought the week after, because we were in the recording studio, we just assumed that we were going to miss the party. And I was really upset because I'd not missed one for a year. And, then we heard that they didn't even do a party. It didn't go ahead. The police either stopped it or people were genuinely scared, you know what I mean, to go down. Yeah.
What else was going to ask you? I'm not trying to stir things up. What happened with you and Pete Tong? What was it?
Oh, yeah. We, I'm trying to, I feel like asking you, what do you know? do you know anything about?
Well, I know it's over the record label, but I don't know obviously the full story. I don't know the full story, and there's definitely going to be people listening who don't. But I'm not trying to put you on the spot if it's too political.
I should be careful about kind of. I shouldn't say anything too negative about him because he's a pretty powerful player in the game. You know what I mean? And it was a long time ago. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, it's fair to say I probably upset him a little bit because I was upset with him and thought I'd get him back a little bit. The kind of it would, to be honest, I mean, it was typical. Looking back at it now, I took everything really personally, and I was signed to a major label, and you hear about major record companies kind of like treating their artists not very well and this kind of thing, and kind of like screwing them over and. It was no different to kind of like what any kind of a label were probably about. They're a business. Yeah. And thinking about it, he was probably under orders to kind of like not give us the money that we were owed and kind of, you might not have even been him who made decisions that were being made, but I was a little bit upset. And when we got out of the deal, I called the next EP FFRREE at last because they were called FFRR. Yeah. And I don't think he was too happy about that. I was really young and I was kind of just wanted to be rebellious, which I was being. So we had a little bit of a fallout, let's say. And
you still speak to him? No, are you in touch with him stuff now?
Not personally. I believe he kind of mentioned something about the tune or kind of like together on some interview some time ago. I'm not sure when it was. Somebody told me that he'd mentioned something about it, about Hardcore Uproar together, sort of being part of the early scene.
Yeah.
So, you probably wouldn't have done that if there was any bad blood or any bad feeling kind of thing. So it's a long time ago, and you know what I mean? As a kid, and, you know what I mean? Things happened, literally 30 years ago. Can you believe how long it's been? Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, you know what I mean? If I'd saw him, I'd, be polite, be professional, and, obviously he's massive, you know what I mean? I'm not going to try and upset him. He's trying to probably do me many favours, you know what I mean?
And I was like, should I ask this question or should I not? You never know, but I thought, I've got to do.
Yeah.
Your friend and obviously the band member Jonathan, he sadly passed away in a car accident. I just wondered how that affected you, musically going forward. What did it change?
The mad thing was, I probably didn't realise it at the time, the extent of how much it affected me. It was probably pretty obvious that it's going to have an effect on me. But I tried to kind of like keep things going, and I attempted to finish off all the stuff that we did together. And even though I did kind of like go in the studio and do most of it, my head was probably not in the right place to really, do everything properly. And, it probably wasn't quite the vision that, Jonathan had and we would have done together, certainly not. But one thing that I did do, which was completely kind of like Jonathan's idea, and I suppose people don't even know this, is there's a Together track called The Love Bug, which was kind of a piano tune. A lot of people kind of like hear it, don't realise it was a Together tune, and it got bootlegged as well. You know what I mean? And years later, I found it bootlegged just to sort of give you an idea of the kind of. Obviously, had a bit of a demand. It was on the Knights of the Turntable series, and that was actually originally a cover of Diana Ross's "I'm Coming Out," and right. Jonathan wanted to do a cover of that. I think he seemed to think it said "I'm coming up." And we were kind of like doing a cover of it with that lyric. And Pete Tong really liked it at the time, and he was really behind it. And in fact, the whole thing was done while I was with Pete Tong. And the tune that came out of it, without the vocal, ended up being a kind of like a reasonably big kind of like piano tune in the clubs. So that was some kind of like probably the only one that found any kind of success that I wanted to carry on doing. But yeah, kind of doing kind of like music, things like playing live and just sort of like, it had quite a big effect on me. I wasn't quite myself, as you can imagine, and nothing was quite made the same again after that. So it's probably about half the reason why doing games, getting into video games was probably kind of like a move that suited me. Do you know what I mean? Because kind of like being on stage and kind of like looking happy, every time, and just sort of like switching that on, it probably got harder and harder, do you know what I mean? And, not something I was in the mood for doing, do you know what I mean? So, probably part of the reason why I got into, like, literally an office job, you know what I mean? A 9-to-5 kind of like job, you know what I mean? It kind of, just for where I was, it probably suited, me better than kind of like strutting about on the stage at the time,
You still go out and stuff to raves and stuff now. I just wondered how you like, obviously compare today's scene with the scene of the late 80s, early 90s. What, would you?
I actually think the scene now, I think it's pretty amazing, to be honest, because there's just people who are putting on parties that are really, really incredible, and they kind of like they try quite hard to trying to get the mood back of the original parties. I mean, the one big difference, and the reason why it for a lot of people isn't going to feel as good, because you get people who just constantly saying it's not the same, it's not as good as it used to be. But one really obvious thing is that it's not brand new anymore. Do you know what I mean? It's 30 years old. So at the time, it was incredible. You know what I mean? It was unbelievable. But it just happened. You know what I mean? It just popped up out of nowhere. And this most unbelievable scene, this kind of thing was going on, acid house parties, and you was just like, your mind was blown, you know what I mean? Like, where did this come from? And this is the most amazing thing you'd ever done. So that element of it being completely brand new and knowing you're doing something where the world is changing. I mean, there's completely, a new exciting thing going on. That you're obviously not going to be there 30 years later because it's, you know what I mean? It's 30 years old. But I mean, like for like, I compare the atmosphere in the parties now. They're not necessarily any worse than what they used to be like. You know what I mean? There's some nights where, like, I was at a night of by the guys. Don't know if you've heard the club night Isle of Acid.
Yeah,
it kind of like used to be just in London, and it was the one where DJ Pierre played, and I remember looking back and just he was putting a tune on, and he's DJ Pierre, you know what I mean, creator of Acid House. He's amazing, and he's kind of doing all his filtering stuff and building the crowd up and down, and everyone's going mental. And I remember just sort of looking back and thinking, this is like '89. This is like it used to be. This is, as it was just like, if this was going on back then, do you know what I mean? This would be one of the best nights. You know what I mean? It'd be amazing. Yeah. And you know what I mean? I suppose there's a lot of good nights now. Do you know what I mean? There's people who are putting on really good nights, and just because it's been going on for 30 years. I mean, I think it's interesting. There was a dip for a while. You know what I mean? House music wasn't as healthy and popular as it is right now, and it's going through. I mean, not right now. Do you know what I mean? But no one's going out at all. But you know what I mean? Generally, when we're all starting going back to clubs again. But recently, you know what I mean? Just before, a few weeks ago, before the kind of like virus and stuff, before the lockdown. You know what I mean? The clubs are just insane, and they started to they know how good they are. Obviously, they got a DJ Club of the Year award this year, and it might have been late last year. And I probably think it was this year, yeah. And they started to do club nights in other cities as well. So like, I've moved away from Manchester, so it's annoying for me now. Do in bloody Manchester, you know what I mean? I used to travel all the way to London to just to go there. Like, you know what I mean? It was like, your train alone can be like nearly £100. Yeah. Your room, you know what I mean? To get a hotel might be a couple £100. Do you know what I mean? And you get your drinks in, you spend a good few £100 just for a dance. But you know what I mean? It was like, you treat it like a mini break, you know what I mean? Treat it like a little holiday. Yeah. And you know what I mean? There were only a few a year, and they were just incredible. Do you know what I mean? They were just amazing nights. And there's a few nights like that. Downfall, absolutely a brilliant night. Connie's in Manchester. Yeah. DJ Pierre does that one. Attic in Liverpool. And they're just like playing. It's the one thing they've got in common is all the people who are doing them. They're run by people who are just like really passionate about the music. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. None of them are done by people who want to make a few quid. Do you know what I mean? Who are doing it for business reasons. They just love the scene, love the music. Most of them are DJs. Do you know what I mean? And they're just like, get together. Most of the people who come down are mates. You know what I mean? So mates of the organisers and the DJs, and they bring their mates, and there's just always this nice little kind of vibe. Do you know what I mean? And it's like the kind of club scenes. It's like you see the same sort of faces, and from that point of view, you know what I mean? There's a really nice kind of feeling of how it used to be. You know what I mean? You see the same sort of faces, and I mean that's imagine I was going to change now. Obviously, I'm in London, but I was going down on my own, and I'd go into the club. You always kind of feel a little bit apprehensive, like am I going to see anyone I know? I hope, you know what I mean? You don't want to be stood on your own all night. You know what I mean? There's always people kind of like, even if you kind of like stood, you know what I mean? You always meet people, you know what I mean, who you recognise and stuff, and they make you feel really welcome. But you'd still kind of like bump into new people. Do you know what I mean? One thing's funny. Sometimes people kind of like don't, think they look at me like, you're older than most of the people here, aren't you? You know what I mean? Kind of might think I'm, with the DJs or with the promoters or something else. You know what I mean? I'm usually there just having a bit of a dance. You know what I mean? Yeah. Just there as a clubber. But yeah, I think it's absolutely brilliant right now. I think the scene has been fantastic for ages. The funny thing is, I've been going to Fabric quite a bit recently, and the atmosphere's never bad. I saw, a couple of different nights. I've been there, quite a few different DJs, and it's not as good as the smaller clubs.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's not quite got the real buzz and excitement of the little clubs, and the names might be bigger, but yeah, some of the smaller clubs they really kind of like got an amazing atmosphere going on. You know what I mean?
Like a community, more of a community sense,
Yeah,
and like an underground feel to
absolutely.
it.
Definitely, yeah.
I mean, I've seen some of your the live sets that you do, the acid sets, and like me and Andy, my business partner in the Double Good brand that we've got, we're definitely going to get something going when this lockover's done. Going to get a little night set up and see if we can get you booked on it. And
do you know what? I would love to. Yeah. I mean, the great thing there is just before this lockdown happened, I was kind of like trying to get a few dates together, and it's really exciting. I got 6 dates, so I was like, it kind of happened accidentally. It was Downfall who were the first ones to book me, and it was like a dream because I go down there and I just got a message going, "Would you fancy playing our club?" I was like, "Would I fancy playing your club?" You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Do anything, and it was meant to be just what date when it's not. Yeah, as I say, a couple of weeks ago now. It's in a couple of weeks' time, meant to be. Obviously, it's not going to happen, and after that, just quite a few more kind of like started booking me, and one of them was middle of March, just before this lockdown happened in Todmorden. So I'm glad I at least got to do one, and it's kind of like it's weird how I still get a bit nervous, and like I don't know, mates know it, and they say to me, it's because you care about wanting to go, wanting it to go well. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And this kind of like night in Todmorden, like just sort of still kind of like a little bit nervous before it, and the place was just brilliant. The atmosphere was amazing. Everyone was like rocking all night, and tunes went down really well, and like when you see that sort of vibe as well, you get more into it.
I've seen some of the clips actually that you posted of that.
Right, yeah. Top little night, it was great, yeah. So it's kind of like I was rehearsing like mad for it every night, kind of like practicing, getting the sound right and everything, and working on the drum lines and the bass lines and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And it's a great little thing. So yeah, if you put something on, absolutely up for it, definitely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a good time as well. I know you're working and that you're probably quite busy, but it'd be a good time to get some stuff on out there because people are stuck in. They'll listen to you.
Do you know what? Yeah, I mean, one of the reasons why I've not done a live stream, totally being honest here, is because I've not sussed out how to get my sound from my mixer into I use the phone as the camera.
Right.
And people. I think people are surprised when they find out that I've not got a sound card for my computer, because the way I work is everything I make as the Ultimate Escape project, I make it completely within the laptop.
Yeah.
And all the sounds within it are all made in there. So I don't need an external kind of like way of recording. And so everything's in there. It's all self-contained. Got my little studio inside the computer. Don't need anything. And then I've got my acid set, which is completely separate. Drum machines and acid box and all my synths. And there's no computer or sound card for any of that.
I think you can there's a little thing called an iRig. I've never used it, but when I was looking at it,
I ordered it last night.
Right, yeah, because I think you can do Facebook Live direct with that straight from the mixer. I think.
You know what? I put a little clip up on Instagram and Twitter, and I'm glad I did, because I just wanted to say, what do you think of the sound quality? And because I was getting fed up, I was like, I'm always really kind of flattered and really kind of honoured when anyone ever asks me to play. You know what I mean? I think it's such a nice thing because I'd kind of I'd pay people for giving the chance to play. Do you know what I mean?
Don't tell them that. Don't tell them that.
Yeah, and people asking me, will you play? It's just like, I've really got to sort this out. A couple of people said to me on Twitter, will you play? And I was like thinking, what will I do? And so I tried a little clip on my iPhone, and it's got a bit of bass on it. It's not terrible, but obviously it's not crystal clear because it's not got a direct input. And posting that clip up got me a couple of replies, people saying, get this iRig.
Yeah.
And there's a few different things. I found a few different ways, but the iRig said, it's only a few quid, you know what I mean? You can just plug my mixer into there, pop my phone up, and the great thing right now is everybody's at home. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
that's it.
right now, my studio is just in office/bedroom. Do you know what I mean? It's just like you can tell I'm at home.
Yeah.
Whereas previously, if I was streaming from there, but I was worried about look really amateur and look like really unprofessional. But everyone's streaming from home. Do you know what I mean? So
Yeah, that's it. Oh,
it's
yeah.
not, but yeah, it's gonna be fine. So, and if people are gonna, I'd love to do it. You know what I mean? And I'm dying to do it. And if people are going to enjoy it, but people actually going to, get something from it. Fantastic. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, I'm going to do this. Hopefully, this little gadget will come through next few days or dead soon. There's been a couple of they've got one mate who is doing this weekly live stream thing. He's come up with the best name ever for doing synthesizers streamed. He's called it Self Oscillate. Perfect. So he's on a Thursday night, and he's got some platform where if I go through his kind of thing, his website or his kind of like platform, it gets out to loads of people. So I'll probably be doing that soon. And there's someone else who asked me to do something as well. So I'll be taking people up on the offers and doing a few little live checks. So I've got I've been writing sort of a load of little bass lines and got loads of new stuff together that I'm dying to play. So yeah, can't wait. Definitely dead soon I'll be doing that. Yeah.
Like I said with this podcast, I've had the equipment for about a year. Kept saying I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it, and then it takes the government to lock me up to actually get me to do it. So it's
I mean that's the only good thing, that people are kind of like getting down and kind of like making stuff. You know what I mean? It's like there's not much good about this lockdown, and like people are kind of like getting their heads to, getting their ideas together and kind of making tunes and getting creative and keeping in touch with people. Do you know what I mean? People are kind of like Skyping and kind of like calling each other, calling friends who they would not even normally call. You know what I mean? And
it keeps you sane as well. It keeps. I mean, like when it first started, this you're thinking a lot about what's going on. When you get to do something creative and you kind of just take your mind off it and get away from, because what can you do? There's nothing you can do about what's going on at the minute, really. Anyway, so. It's better to keep yourself busy in one way or another and be something positive. That's even better.
Definitely.
So obviously one thing I'd ask you about, which I kind of know stuff about because you already did like an interview for our webpage, was your book, A Brief History of Acid House. Yeah. Obviously I've read that. It's a great book. I just wondered how, for people listening, where did the idea come from for that book?
Yeah, no, I had the idea to do something like ages ago. I just kind of like thought there's loads of different kind of like articles and kind of like stuff about Acid House, but this I'd never seen anyone who'd kind of like done everything going from like the origins of kind of like Roland and the kind of like how the 303 was kind of like misused and how it was a flop originally. And kind of covering all the kind of like Chicago stuff and going through all that, going right up to, even up to today and all the raves and everything. And I kind of thought, right, if there's no one really, because there's some amazing books, like a book called The Acid House Story by Luke Bainbridge, and it's about kind of like the party side of it. He speaks to all the DJs, and it's an incredible book. And I kind of thought I wouldn't mind doing something what's kind of just sort of like tells the complete story. I mean, I appreciate that in order to do that, it'd be really big. And that's why I thought, right, I'll do it in a kind of like almost childlike kind of like, perspective. And originally, the title of it was Acid House Bedtime Stories. And I kind of did it and showed my mate at work who we did some of them classical kind of like rave things where you get orchestra playing a few kind of house classics. Yeah. And the guy who do that with Simon Withenshaw, that's who I worked with. To be honest, everywhere I've worked with him for like the last sort of 20 years almost. Every games job I met him at one of these games companies. I've worked with him and putting on these nights, and I showed him the book, and he was like, "You're daft calling it." I said, "It's bedtime stories," because it's kind of like cheapening a bit. It's a good book. And I was surprised, because if anyone's going to tell me the truth, tell me it's no good, it's going to be him. You know what I mean? And he was just like, it's pretty good what you've done there. I was like, oh, right, okay. And that's when I decided to change it to A Brief History of Acid House, sort of slightly more serious title. And never in a million years did I expect kind of people to kind of, respond to it the way they did. Because I did it. Originally, I always expected to get somebody else to do the drawings, and I broke my leg and thought, right, might as well just give this a shot myself and sort of put it all together. And I think you can tell it's a bit rough around the edges and in parts, and it kind of some people have said it's sort of part of the appeal, that the fact that you've done it yourself.
Yeah.
So it's all very acid house, you know what I mean? And just sort of printed a load up and stuck it on Bandcamp, and just people kind of took to it, and it's been really, really positive. And last thing I expected was publishers to approach me and say, "Are you interested in doing more of them, similar stuff on more things on a similar kind of line?" So I'm sort of working on some of that now.
I know. I remember you mentioning that to me, that the publishers have got in touch. How much further are you on with that? Have you started writing?
Started doing so kind of like talking to this publisher and kind of putting some ideas together, and they've got so I'm not 100% how much he wants me to say kind of publicly, but we've been sort of talking about the sort of specifics of the kind of like the ideas and what titles he wants. So he wants to do like a series of similar books on different dance music genres. Do you know what I mean? So just sort of started to write some of the pages for it and showing it him, and he's really into it. Yeah, so it's sort of starting to come together. It's sort of going well. Yeah.
And is it going to be like another coffee table style book with the like the brief history of Acid House one, or is it going more?
Yeah, I think it'll be a very similar thing, but more detail, more pages, and more kind of like more text.
Yeah,
and sort of a bit more professionally done, because they're kind of like the proper publisher kind of release kind of books, and so he's kind of like looking at kind of like doing it on a bigger scale, kind of slightly bigger, more sort of thicker book, more pages, and everything sort of like a slightly more polished finish to it.
Yeah. We'll stick a link on as well. Have you still got those for sale, your original book? Have you got it from on your website?
Literally just a few left, because it was I had like a couple of boxes, and quite a few got sold while this has been going on.
Yeah.
People obviously sat at home thinking, what can I do? You know what I mean? And I got a few orders, which is really nice. And the Design Museum are doing a history of electronic music, and they contacted me and said they'll have a box full. And I was like, oh, right, okay, there's barely box left. And so I had like a full box, and so that meant that literally just like just a couple left. So they're almost gone, which is brilliant. You know what I mean? Because I didn't, I took a bit of a gamble with it, thinking I wasn't sure if I'm going to shift them all, but I thought, right, I'm going to do it, got to do it properly. You know what I mean? So gave it a shot. And so with that recent thing with the Design Museum taking most of the last lot, there's not that many. Oh, but I'll give you a link, and it'd be good to kind of like have interest, and especially I'm sort of in the middle of sort of making my website look like I've not done it myself, and it's sort of redone a little bit by someone who knows what they're doing, and I'll put information on there, hopefully saying a new book's going to come out. You know what I mean? So so it kind of hopefully get a little bit of interest for the new stuff.
Yeah. I suppose before I'm just looking at what questions I've kind of asked. I mean, I could probably go on and on and on, but I suppose before we wrap it up, you're still making music now, aren't you? I just wondered, for anyone who's not familiar with what you're doing, what kind of stuff are you doing now?
So I suppose I record under sort of three different sort of projects, if you like.
Yeah.
So still doing my original project, which was Together, which we did called Uproar under, released an EP, which is a third installment of the House Sound of Together kind of series. So I did a couple in the 90s and did the House Sound Together Volume 3 just sort of early last year, and it was great. Got played on Pete Tong's Essential Selection, so that was brilliant.
Yeah.
Radio 1 kind of playing it, and kind of like got quite a nice reception in the club. So still doing that. Plan to do. I only meant I sort of did that one thinking I thought 33 would be a nice round number. Do Sounds Together Volume 3, and that'll be it. But kind of thinking, there's no harm in doing more of them. Do you know what I mean? I mean, it might not be another House Hand Together kind of like EP, but certainly going to put some other stuff out under that. I'm working with a mate called Matt Sargent on all that stuff. He's kind of like a mastering engineer, really amazing kind of producer, engineer, DJ from the north in Winsford. In Manchester, he's got an office. He runs a kind of like PR company and sort of does music production and samples and stuff. So kind of like be doing some new stuff with him. So as well, so that's kind of like the together stuff. I do some stuff, do me acid stuff, kind of like live stuff, and sort of do some solo stuff under my own name as well. And a lot of that's with Matt as well. To be honest, most of it is, but I've done some stuff recently. What's coming out on this label called Acid Chicken. And so I've done a couple of tracks for them, which they'll be putting out on vinyl pretty soon. Done a couple of. I did something with Matt recently, which is probably just going to be our own names, Suddi, Raval and Matt Sargent, where it's slightly kind of stepping outside of what we normally do. Normally kind of like acid housey, and this is quite jungly. We did this kind of almost like jungle tune, which isn't kind of like sort of dead fast like drum and bass sort of tempos, but jungly sort of beat. Yeah. And kind of like house 4 on the floor comes all over the top. And we sent it to like one of the best labels we know of, electronic music, a label called Further Electronics, thinking, nothing lost. Let's see what they think, give it to them, and if they say no, we'll try elsewhere. And they said yeah. So we're absolutely buzzing. It's going to be coming out on vinyl with them sort of later on this year. And lastly, the third project that I do stuff is Ultimate Escape Project. So funny thing was, before all this happened, I was doing a new album, which I wasn't even going to tell anyone about. And this is literally the first time I've even spoke about it. And I was kind of putting it together, and I was calling it just time with the Ultimate Escape Project name, Escapism. And I was just kind of listening to it recently, thinking, actually, that's probably just right to put out now. Yeah. People probably need a bit of escapism. So, just as you can gather, doing all this, because I'm still teaching full time by webcam, you know what I mean? So my weeks are pretty busy. And I do kind of like pop over to Manchester to give my mum shopping and give her supplies to the weekend every couple of weeks. And so, time's thin, but definitely kind of like thinking I'll finish that off. Because it's like I did 9 tunes, and it's like, so it's almost finished the album. So, yeah, that did got some really nice artwork for the cover as well. A mate, an old friend, kind of like did me some really cool art, so I should hopefully be putting that out pretty soon. So a few different things that I'm still pretty busy working on.
Nice one. That sounds pretty cool. Anyway, like I say, whatever links, if you want to fire us up, we'll get some links and stuff on for you so people can see your stuff and that. And nice thanks for coming on. It's been good to speak to you.
Pleasure.
Hopefully carry on this podcast after all this is over, and then maybe we can get you on again and get a further update of what you're up to and go from there.
Brilliant. Yeah. No, nice one, mate. Yeah, cool.
So thanks again for coming on anyway, mate. So
thank you very much.
Speak to you soon.
Cheers. All right. Speak to you soon.